want to talk now from the perspective of somebody who's done quite a lot of education video thinking and production and work and contracts and so forth about the process. This is where I'm kind of giving you, tips from experience, if you like. We'll go through these and talk about them, and we'll get to another one of these interactive exercises at the end where we talk about the verticals which are actually most attractive at the moment. So I want to talk you through a sample product here, which we've been making for one of the very big global publisher groups. It's 80 units in a combined business and DLT curriculum. So the issue here is people are doing college, vocational, business, commerce kind of courses. English is an important part of that. They want to blend both the commercial and business curriculum with English acquisition. They may be relatively sophisticated young adults, so you can't patronize them, but obviously their English isn't at the level it needs to be. So you need a particular kind of content that will work for that. And the outcome is an engaging course that has actually got content refreshed on a year-by-year basis. So it has that sense of year topicality around it. It should feel a bit edgy. In this particular commission, we delivered it through, let's go back. We delivered it through video. So these are courses where the fundamental experience of the learner is video-based. It's just worth understanding why one does that. So this is research from HubPoint about the content consumption preferences of the generation of target learners. This is actually around online content in social media, and it's more geared towards advertisers and brand owners than it is towards educators. But you can use this kind of research and discover that there's just no doubt that for the target audience here, video will be a more effective medium and they will prefer and engage with it. Not just in terms of, wow, that's cool, I'm going to skim it, but actually it's their preferred method of acquiring deep content based on, that's quite a large sample of the kind of scale that can be paid for by big consumer brands. So I'm going to show you one of the products in this, just to give you an idea. This is produced through the partnership with ITN for that client. An example of the kind of video asset that's being created. This is actually created from authentic video, so important distinction. Is it manufactured specifically for the purpose, or is it repurposed? And here we've repurposed for a topic on transport.
How do you travel to school? Do you go by bus or might you cycle? In towns and cities, people often take a taxi. Today we are looking at one special kind of taxi, the three-wheel scooter or tuk-tuk.
There are little scooters that you can go on. They're ever such fun. You can knock down all kinds of people like that.
Sorry, I'll just get my mouse off it.
They're ever such fun. You can knock down all kinds of people like that.
In Africa, three-wheel taxis are very popular. But they are everywhere in the world too. In Europe, they are electric. In Pakistan, there's a special kind of tuk-tuk service for women. The drivers and passengers feel safer because of the doors. In Gaza, the tuk-tuks are also shops. After a safe night at home, the owner drives it to the market each day. This owner brings his cafe to where the people are. Factories like this one make electric tuk-tuks for big roads in Europe, and they need to be safe. There's just one problem in a northern country. Three wheels in the snow is quite hard to control. In Sri Lanka, the tuk-tuk is also used to play the sport of polo. In the old days, the players had to steer horses or elephants. So, is it easy now?
It's quite hard because actually you're not in control of your tuk-tuk, so you've got to communicate with your driver.
Here's an unusual kind of problem for tuk-tuks in India. When there is an angry elephant in your town, they are not at all safe.
So what we're looking for in this kind of product, what this client is looking for, is that video should be entertaining, engaging. One of the words we use is sort of clippable. It's got to be so good as an experience to watch it that you actually want to put it on your Facebook profile as well because, hey, I saw this funny video. So the sense here that we're trying to get for this market of 18-year-olds is it doesn't feel like work, it feels like fun. I would watch it anyway. It's full of things I can chat about to my mates. And yet at the same time, there is enough material in there that a teacher can start to build discussions around, for example, urban geography or transport or sustainability or customer service or different business models. All of that's in there. And the asset is then packaged with worksheets that allow the teachers to bring out those themes in classwork. So that's just an example of the kind of quality of product that's going to be coming out from one leading publisher, and you'll be seeing that available fairly soon. I'm now going to show you some worksheets around these kind of products. So this is a worksheet. This was done speculatively as a kind of pilot development. I didn't want to show you something that's actually going to be coming out from a rival publisher, but we did this speculatively as a pathfinder exercise. This is actually around a different video, not the one you've just seen. It's a video which is adapted from a news segment. So the news segment was about Amazon's decision to start doing fashion sales online, and they decided to set up a studio where they could film the fashion models, so the move was out of the high street and into online retail in fashion, and that allowed one to sort of see some serious business people, see the photography process for the models, and talk about the transition between real world and online retailing as a business topic, but in a sort of attractive way with nice young attractive people doing modeling as part of the story. So the draft structure of the worksheet shows that you can obviously use the opening video there, which is that one there, as the engagement. That is the story, that's the news story, and it's pretty much as the news story was broadcast. We've slightly recut it. We've laid on different levels of narration so that it can be consumed at B1 and B2 and C1, each with progressively more complex vocabulary. So obviously the opening engaging video, a classic use of video, let's grab them, let's give them a story, let's give them some stimulus material. But we then went on in other aspects of the worksheet to use video in other ways. So one of the ways we did it was an extension and deepening task. The flip side, obviously, of adopting more of an online model in retailing is the death of the high street. So we were able to find a really adequate little 2-minute news report around the death of a particular high street and the fact that all the shops were closing down. And that gives you an opportunity for deeper, perhaps private work, discussion work, based on your experience in your own town, for example, of these kind of forces. So that's the video being used as a deepener as opposed to an engager. And then later on in the worksheet experience, we asked people to consume 2 other videos that were more like sort of just freaky and discussable, but would give them the opportunities to go forward with their vocabulary and talk about it because the subject was inherently so interesting. So there was a video about a little trendy startup shop that was selling cereals at £5 per bowl and doing very well with 2 startup entrepreneurs. So again, a business topic, but it used, it tried to give a new life to face-to-face retailing. And a video about how this building in London, the so-called walkie-talkie, has a parabolic mirror that fries cars in the street because it concentrates the light. And that's just an interesting piece of video about life in the street, what happens in the street, so people could move off from there. But the idea here was that video should then be a starting point for the learners to actualize their capacity in the language with the vocabulary and on the topic. So I just wanted to show you that to give you a sense of the wide varieties of ways in which you can fit video into a pedagogy, and that's only scratching the surface. But you'll be seeing that kind of stuff out there in courses really in the next couple of years. Let's now talk about where you source your video. So that was brought up obviously by our feedback earlier. you know, who's going to make this stuff? Is it even bespoke stuff? Whether it's being bought in from authentic sources or whether it's being made bespoke, it has to be made. Are publishers the right people to make it? In my view, no. I come from a television production background. I used to run production at the BBC in education, and I think that the skills of video production are very specialized. To do it well and engagingly in a way that the audiences we're talking about will really enjoy it and say, yeah, this is what I want to watch, is something that is just not in the education publishing skill set at all. It's also such a volatile field in terms of trend and technology and so forth that the cost of investing both in the human capital and the technology to do it well are just unmeetable. So you need to go outside and you need to find a specialist contractor. That's my honest view. And I do know that the production, in-house video production companies of publishers and where they did exist are all under pressure, closing and disappearing. Good reason. That's what's going to happen. I'd just like to share this example with you. So Proversity is a learning publisher, education publisher working in the vertical of onboarding and early career education. One of the reasons that that's attractive for those particular clients who need to publish this kind of content to their learners, and it needs to be in video, they've discovered that you can't bring somebody new into the Bank of England and expect them to read a piece of paper anymore. You've got to induct them in a different way. They needed to do that with an outside contractor. There's an interesting production model here which allows benefit of cost reduction. First of all, a lot of the content around that particular topic area, early career, my first day at work, what do I wear, how do I deal with the office bully, all that sort of stuff, is generic and can be repurposed. So they can reuse generic content. They can take licensed content on a strategic basis, so they could buy in all the stock shots that you're ever likely to need of young people at work, and they can refresh that on a regular yearly basis. And crucially, they allow you to arbitrage the cost and quality equation. So you can say, do you know what, I'm really poor, I need to do it for $300 an hour, or I can really push the boat out and take less of your stock shots and more of your bespoke shots of interviews with my own employees and things like that. They actually do all the post-production in Africa at a much lower price point, obviously, South Africa, and you can get $500 an hour, really high-quality documentary materials from a publisher like this. I'm not selling them, I'm just thinking it's an example of the kind of solutions that are out there once you decide to say, hey, we're not doing this. Let's talk about authentic video. That's where I do most of my work, and I think that authentic video, that's the repurposing of things that people will have seen in news and documentaries and on television, is an important way forward. I'm going to show you what I think is the advantage of this kind of video. We're looking at a repurposing of a very glossy, very expensive documentary that was made for British television about the reopening of the Savoy Hotel. So it was made at a total of 100 minutes duration. There will have been about £500,000 will have been invested in that production, which means that you have amazing camera work, real stars, beautifully edited stuff and so forth. So through ITN, which is the rights holders, we have the rights to clip that up for education. And effectively what we've done is smash that evening primetime education, primetime entertainment documentary up with a hammer, and we've reassembled it with a light edit in the studio as an education asset. So this, again, is for one of those hybrid business and English courses. The subject for this particular course element, well, there are two subjects, in fact. One is customer feedback for the business audience, and the other is social media marketing. So those were two topics we had to cover. And by taking the same material, putting new commentary on it, selecting little different bits from it, we were able to get an asset of the quality you're about to see at an affordable price point for education. We've also put we buffer it with a sort of a top and tail from a presenter like this, so it feels bespoke to the client. The client's brand isn't on this, but it should give you an idea.
London's Savoy Hotel means balancing its... In the world of luxury brands, customers demand the very best. Managing a global brand like London's Savoy Hotel means balancing its traditional values against the need to stay up to date. After more than a century, the hotel has undergone a major modernisation programme costing over $300 million.
We were there to see the reaction of the first customers to the new Savoy. After a 3-year closure and refit, Prince Charles will officially reopen the hotel later today. The first guests are already giving their opinions on the new Savoy. Changing a well-established brand always brings risks.
We are so disappointed.
We are honestly so disappointed. I suddenly don't want to come back. I first came here 60 years ago. It's changed. The river room now looks like a pizza joint.
Much better. Lovely style. Nice smiling. They're all smiling. All happy. Which is certainly a change from the old Savoy. That's for sure. How did you go? Do you like it?
I think it's better than it was before. Better. I'm very impressed with the marble flooring.
I would only come back for one reason.
Which is?
To see you.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much. No, please, come back. Yeah? Nice to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
In the demanding luxury market, even hundreds of millions of dollars can't always guarantee a satisfied customer.
So that's cut up, the authentic asset has been cut up to give you one story, but I'm going to show you how it was cut up now to give you a completely different story.
The business of luxury is our story today. For over a century, London Savoy has been one of the world's most exclusive hotels. Now it is trying to attract new luxury customers. We've been to take a look. The Savoy recently reopened after a 3-year, $300 million rebuild. But renovating the luxurious building meant also renewing its prestige brand. For their first guest, the hotel has lined up someone to post about the new Savoy in social media. It's Stephen Fry, English comedian, actor and celebrity blogger. The hotel's manager wants a 21st century image, so he's asked Mr. Fry to be the Savoy's first blogger in residence. He will be looked after by his own personal butler.
That's it, Mr. Fry. Welcome to another concert.
Thank you.
I've got the kettle boiled if you'd like.
No, sure, it's okay. This is lovely.
Oh, a coffee or
I shall
something?
settle slowly and a coffee will be gorgeous.
I have a long relationship with the Savoy, actually. From the very first, it always, to me, had a sort of mystical, magical quality. And then my obsession grew with Oscar Wilde, and Oscar's relationship with the Savoy is enormous. I think it's really important for London to have its great hotels. I think it attracts people, it keeps a huge amount of employment. Theatres all depend on having a hotel like this right in the heart of the West End, full of people who've come from all over the world. And I can't think that's a bad thing.
So that's one satisfied customer, and with the power of social media, the new Savoy's brand message will travel far and wide.
Okay, so I think that's just, for those of you who don't have a TV production background, understanding that in this medium, there are things that you can do in terms of, laying on new voice, recutting it, finding new stories inside existing units of authentic material, which allow you to deliver a customized curriculum and pedagogy for learners, at the same time as offering them these kind of, all the bling and glitz and, name checks and humor and delight that people expect in this age category, without necessarily having to compromise on the quality of the syllabus and the quality of the education experience. But I do come back to the first point. The skills to do this, to look at an asset like that, acquire it, clear the rights on it for education, all doable, and sort of snip it up into things like this, are things that I think one needs to think about working in partnership with the video production industry for delivering. Obviously, when you're starting working in video, you can throw out your old editorial workflow. This is what the print editorial workflow for publishing is supposed to look like. It looks like a mess to me, but I presume that's your daily bread and butter. But when you go into video, it really has to change. First, the authoring is a collaborative activity with the video professionals. And there's a sort of a continuous feedback loop. You can't have the authors saying, we want to cover this topic, and then go away and make it. It has to be more like, well, what are the possible topic areas? What are the possible assets available? What are the realistic problems about achieving those on video? The cost problems, the time problems. Let's abandon plan A and go back to plan B, and so forth. This is the workflow that we are working on for the ELT customers with ITN, and I'll just take you through it. We start from an iterative process around the brief. We then show in a storyboard the assets that are available, and look at the problems of them. Are they the right character? Is it a person who will appeal in the market, and so forth. We then go to paper scripts. Because video production is very expensive, you need to be really sure you're making the right thing before you send anybody out with a camera or open up the door of an edit suite. And you have to do screenings fairly early on in the cycle of things that really look like a mess. So you need to be experienced in judging them. They don't look like yet fine quality products before you can actually go to a final edit and deliver a product. Quite a challenge, I think, for a lot of the publishers that we're working with, is to work to these kind of workflows. And then finally, the choice of vertical. This is something I thought we could all perhaps work on collectively. Where are we going to be able to make the most margin by offering a video product? So I'm working a bit with Udacity, and they have been very clear that by adding video into their mix of media and delivery on computer skills, coding skills, and so forth, they've been able to raise the product price. So they've gone from maybe $20, $30 certificates only to $300 or $400 courses in coding, because they've been able to add good video in. It's sustained the price point for them. If you're working in formal K-12 education, you're probably going to need to look at where the volume is. Often it's in school platforms. The idea that you can distribute to the school book room is gone. You have to distribute to the IT system in the school. Who owns it? Are you talking to them? Is it Promethean? Who has it? In the higher education market, the biggest places for finding videos are obviously in MOOCs, and as you see the rental model from Chegg and so forth penetrating the system, then clearly making sure that the video is with those people who've got the model for monetizing it and getting in the cash becomes important. Because of time, actually, I was going to do that as an interactive exercise, but I don't think I will. What I'd like to do we could perhaps come back to that later. What I'd like to do for the little remaining time before we go to questions is just look at the things that we don't know. I've been able to tell you very confidently that these things matter. There's quite a lot of areas of debate and discussion here where I don't think there's really a consensus, and it's an opportunity for us to try and create the EEPG consensus on where we should go on these issues. So I was going to do this over coffee because, as the advert says, Kawa nie zadaje głupich pytań. Coffee doesn't give you any crazy questions, it just allows you to understand. What should be the publishing industry standard for video around these key debates? So here they are. Is the job of a syllabus when it's delivered by video to deliver the actual disciplinary content? The content of that subject area, or is it actually to deliver transversal skills? And I think there's a strong case for video actually being a better deliverer of some of the transversal skills around subjects, skills like innovation, originality, leadership, concentration, attention, critical thinking, than of actually delivering the core syllabus elements. Synthetic versus authentic content, well, you know that I'm on the authentic side, but there are some user cases where perhaps we have to continue to make scripted video. I won't give you that one. But I want to just show you this short asset, which is an asset we've started to work with for transversal skills for in the K-12 curriculum. So this is a peak time series.
In the grasslands of South Africa, 16 British vet students are about to get the shock of their lives. The amazing thing about what these students are facing in this course is the fact that it's uncontrollable.
Look out the ref, look out the ref, guys, pull on the ref! Hey, ref!
Having to pin down animals barely under sedation.
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
And sometimes with claws and teeth that can rip you to shreds.
Most of them don't realise quite how hands-on they need to be.
Whoa!
Stop, pull out, don't stare at me, all good.
This is so cool!
Happy gods, happy gods.
We follow their tears and terrors.
We just saved one kid from getting rabies. That would be amazing.
As these straight-A students step up to the life and death challenges at the Safari Vet School.
Classic bit of mid-market entertainment, we're able to turn that into a sort of a social, personal tutorial studies thing, which will be sold to the, the upper end of the K3 spectrum, but it can also support biology, it can also support geography, fairly multi-purpose product. But interestingly, the publisher there is looking for video to support the development of the transversal skills curriculum. And what you do with a product like that, which is designed as a piece of linear entertainment that you'll just sit down and watch with your beer, is you smash it up into all the little personal stories that are in there. So there are 20 or 30 characters, each of whom goes through a journey, and those can be turned into little units that are bite-sized, 2 or 3 minutes, that work very well for the market. Big question for me, is video actually is it the pillars, the structure of education? Is it actually going to deliver you your content syllabus that you need to know about how to do these kind of equations? Or is it actually going to be the thing that flies you through it? Uncertain. I see it working well both ways. My own sense of it is it's actually the thing that gives you delight and motivation and insight and those sort of moments of, wow, I love this subject, as opposed to delivering core bits of knowledge. But it's a debate, and one that I think we could perhaps work on in this room. And the final thing that nobody really yet knows, but it's the really big game changer, is at what point does video stop being this sort of sit back, I'm enjoying it, yeah, I've got a cushion behind my head and it's sort of a nice experience, and it actually becomes a really tough, lean forward assessment experience where my marks are being generated from what I have done with this video. Now we're beginning to see that curve moving. As I said at the beginning, it's already crossing in ELT. We're there in a lot of the professional verticals. We have to watch very carefully for that moment. So, for example, in Catalonia, already the assessments for language exams are delivered through video. That's an earlier adopter. You may know of other cases, but wherever you see that happening, you know that the game has changed, and that because the high-stakes assessment and accreditation comes from a video-related experience, the rest of the structure is going to have to very quickly fall over and do the same. So I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. If we do want to go further, but I'd like to now stop and sort of throw it back to you, we could try and write that as our own consensus, or we could just go into general questions or whatever it is, Marcus and Helga, that you would like to do for the rest of this session.